My name's Dave Aceto, and I am one of the owners of Arcadia National Bar in Portland, Maine. I kind of had a mix of different jobs, working anywhere from Fenway Park in Boston to a summer camp, which is where I spent most of my time actually. I worked there for 8 years, Kingsley Pines Camp in Raymond, Maine, which I think that job really translated to where I am now, because I kind of feel like I'm running a summer camp for adults to a point. After what ended up being my last summer, I went to the director and I said, look, I've spent a lot of time investing into this camp, and I really get behind it. I would just like to be something more than a counselor. It turned out that they didn't want to give me anything more than being a counselor. There was no full-time, year-round position for me, and that was really hard to have an 8-year relationship with a business just kind of suddenly end, because I mean that place was my life, and when you work with kids, there's something that goes beyond just the job. To know a child for 6, 7, 8 years and really see them grow up, and then all of a sudden not be a part of their lives anymore, it was a kind of a shock to me that I wouldn't be working with them anymore. You almost see them as one of your children when you see them grow up like that. So it was hard for me to accept that wouldn't be a part of my life anymore. And that was a community that I was really a part of, and I knew that if I was going to do something else, that I really wanted it to have that community feeling again. But I didn't know what I was going to do. So it was, I think, maybe a September. There was a hurricane that came through, and it was just a miserable time. It was the first summer I was away from the camp, and I was really depressed about it, and I just got hammered. I took a bottle of vodka, and I went down to the beach, and it was just pouring rain, and I drank most of the bottle, and I'm sitting there on the rocks and just like crying and yelling at the ocean, like, why this is so unfair, life is unfair. I was looking back at it, it was not my proudest moment, but it happened. And the next morning I just felt so emotionally drained, and I was like, I can't hold on to summer camp anymore. It's time for me to actually, put up or shut up with wanting to build a community. And look, that chapter of my life is over. So that's when kind of the idea of putting the arcade bar together really stemmed from. And that's when I reached out to other people and said, hey, is this something maybe we could do? And after 6 or 7 months of going through a bunch of people, Ben and I met and had serious conversations, and we are still drinking bottles of vodka on the beach, but it's a little different. No, not really.
I had just moved to Portland after traveling for a while. A mutual friend of ours just started bringing me to the pinball league.
We'd always, go play every Sunday for a couple hours and then go drink beers, and it kind of, became, well, why don't we just do both of those things at once? I think people would want to play games and, arcades, pinball, board games, and drink beer. That's
One day we met up, went to a little tap house, had some dinner, and looked around and said, well, it's just me and you. Let's do this thing.
So we asked for $25,000 on Kickstarter to get us open, really, and it's a hefty price, and I definitely don't think we would have been able to open without the $25,000. But when you launch a Kickstarter, it's not just click a few buttons and hope that it makes its goal after 30 days. You have to actively be out every day, for those 30 days that it's active, and try to make sure that this gets funded. Make sure people know about it. Make sure you know what rewards are available. And it was down to the wire to get $25,000. And there were times when I was legitimately concerned it might not get funded, but it was a really good to get the word out to people and to gauge interest, because if we only got $4,000, then people would not have wanted to come to the bar. It would have been a clear sign that Portland didn't want this. But when we had 3 days left and only $1,500 on the campaign to go, then it was clear, like, people are putting their money where we needed it to be. And people wanted there to be an arcade bar, kind of a nerd-friendly space in Portland. So in the end, I think Kickstarter was the right way to go, and it was essential to us opening the bar. So when we finally got our space for the bar at 24 Preble Street, it was a difficult task to put the bar together. Ben and I had never done anything like this before. We hadn't owned a business. We hadn't worked at a bar. I mean, I had bar backed, but that's totally different than actually running a bar. I mean, really, owning a bar has nothing to do with ever working at a bar to a point. There are things you need to understand, and again, I think one of the best things you can do in running a business is knowing what you don't know. One of the reasons Ben and I work well together is because he does things that I can't do, and I can do things that he can't do.
The best thing about it is we both have our own strengths. We both have a good work ethic. Both very intelligent people, I would say. Dave is better at doing like day-to-day, like working with people kind of things. I'm a little bit better at keeping things organized and keeping track of financial things and making sure all of our permits and payroll and insurance and all that stuff is always up to date. We both just kind of like looked at what resources we'd already gathered in the process and just consolidated everything and started just kind of making a list of steps we needed to do.
One of the essential puzzle pieces that needed to be in the right spot for us too was staffing, because initially we needed to have at least 2 people. We later found out we needed more than 2 people, otherwise we would have gone insane.
I knew Ben and Dave because there's a comic book store, Coast City Comics, that has pinball machines there, and that was my introduction. They would host the leagues, the pinball leagues, every week. Sundays, go pay $5, play a lot of pinball, and Dave would run the leagues. So when I found out this place was opening, I knew a good friend of mine, Vinny, was getting a job here, and told him to keep me in mind if they needed any help. Got me in touch with Ben and Dave, and one of my first shifts here, I think I referred to him publicly, like while we were open, as my boss, and he was like, he had this sort of like recoiling reaction to that. He was like, I don't really want to be like thought of as your boss, but he's like the curator, curates this space that is like super fun, welcoming to everybody, sets up events, guides me, puts me in the right direction, how to set up my skills in a way as a bartender and as like somebody who works in the service industry to cater to the very unique style of place that this is,
Where we are now, a year and a half into business, it is a lot different than, the first week of being in business. There were, nights when I didn't sleep. I probably lost 30 pounds in the first 3 months of the business, just worrying about stuff and carrying kegs, and it was a good initial response, I'll say that. When we opened the first couple of weeks, we had people waiting outside to come in the door, so that was good, and we anticipated kind of a honeymoon phase to the bar where it's going to be busy and then it will probably drop off, and of course it does. You can't have lines out the door every night, but we kind of started to fall into a groove of how the business actually works. When will we actually be busy? We needed to hire 3 more people to give everybody time off and actually sleep. It's definitely more of a well-oiled machine at this point. We are anticipating kind of another change happening soon, as we are going to expand the bar. We're going to have more space. We've learned what people want. I think that we present a good product now, but you can always get better. And if you're not looking to get better, then I don't know what you're doing. So, more space, more tables. We're going to start serving food, so that's going to be a whole nother adventure. And I think we'll be able to go through the whole process of worrying if things are going to work or not. But we have such a good community already in place. We have such a loyal customer base that, I don't think we'll lose anybody. I think, we'll actually gain people. And people realize that this, expansion will be for them. This is what they want. So, that'll begin soon, and hopefully, come this fall, the bar will look a little different, but have the same, kind of vibe to it and community feel.